This act also put municipalities in the position to allow or disallow specific activities and marketplaces with respect to marijuana. Now, I've heard lots of people and talked to lots of people about these issues. And after tonight, perhaps there'll be other ways to think about it. But generally, people that I've spoken to have fallen into one of three buckets. There are those who voted yes on legalization and are pro-marijuana, either because they're users or they see a business opportunity, and they want to see Livingston allow all of the available options under the law. The second bucket would be people I've spoken to who voted to legalize it on the referendum, but did it either for social justice reasons or they are marijuana users, and they want it to be legal, but they do not want it in the town. They don't want it in Livingston. And then the third bucket would be people who voted no to legalization and also do not want it in town. So clearly there are strong opinions on this, and we understand that whatever actions the council may decide are in the best interest of Livingston, there will be some people who are perhaps dissatisfied after that. At this point, it's important to clarify the council has made no decision related to the implementation of the law. And that's one of the reasons why we're doing what we're doing tonight. The format for tonight will be as follows. First, our town attorney, Jared Cantor, will explain the nuts and bolts of the new marijuana law that passed in February. And then we will come to questions and comments that the council sees tonight as an opportunity to listen. We are interested to hear from any and all town residents who wish to speak on the subject. You'll have up to 6 minutes to speak once recognized by our town manager, Barry Lewis. And once your 6 minutes are up, Deputy Town Manager Russ Jones will give you that indication. So please be respectful. We are required not to go over that time limit. So I think at this point, we can pass it over to Jared, who's going to take us through the new law. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council. And I think this is a great forum, and also thank you to our town manager, obviously, for having this, all together tonight. First off, I just want to introduce someone on the screen who you may not know. Courtney Cook, she's an attorney in our office. She has, since the bill was written, she's kind of been hands-on. We represent a lot of municipalities in our firm. Getting up to speed on this law was important. She's not only reviewed the many iterations of the bill, but she has also attended the first meeting of commissioners, which was yesterday, and I'll go through that. She's spoken with the senator who sponsored the bill and the writer of the bill to get some legislative intent. So she's well-versed. I've had a lot of conversations with her. She's prepared some memos. So she's here in case there's some questions that I can't answer, but I just wanted to give her a brief introduction. I'm going to share my screen, and I've created a very brief, I've created a very brief PowerPoint. And again, tonight is obviously about the public and hearing what the public has to say. And in thinking about what I wanted to say tonight, it's important to understand. I thought it was important. It's not the right one, huh? Sorry, guys. I don't know. You guys can't see. Can you guys see the PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. So think about what I wanted to present tonight. I thought, what is it important for the public to know? And really what's important tonight is what options does Livingston have? What are we actually talking about tonight? And I'm going to be brief again because tonight is really about the public. So, okay. So first off, why are we here? And I think the mayor covered a lot of this, and I'm going to go through this quickly. I'm not going to restate what the mayor said. The governor signed this bill into law on February 22nd, 2021. As part of this bill, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Cannabis Regulatory Commission, because largely this commission was put into place to create the regulations. And I'm going to go through a few. There's a few gaps in the law, and they're not really gaps in the law. The law hasn't been fully implemented or created yet, and that kind of limits a little bit of what the township can do. And I'm going to explain that to the public so we understand tonight what your feedback and really what we can do as a township beginning now. Again, they held the first meeting on April 12th, 2021. That was yesterday. We attended that meeting. They gave some guidance, which I put into the slides, and I'm going to share with the governing body and also the public tonight. What's really important on this slide, and why we're having this, and why I think the mayor, the governing body, and the township manager are taking this so seriously, is there's a deadline. And the deadline is August 21st, 2021. And what does that deadline mean? That deadline means is if the township doesn't act before then, the state and the statute will act in its place. And what will happen is all classes of marijuana will be allowed in Livingston. And there are 6 classes of marijuana, which I've just put up on the screen. And basically, if we don't act by that date, all 6 will be allowed in Livingston, with most of them allowed in industrial zones. But a retail license will be a conditional use in any retail or commercial zone, and that'll be established for 5 years with no way for the township to have any regulation. And what makes it even more scary for the township, if we weren't going to act, is it's considered a conditional use, and nobody knows what those conditions are yet, because the regulatory commission has not yet decided. So very quickly, how can a municipality act? And this is really what we're here to talk about. Essentially, a township can permit, regulate, or completely ban any use license. So again, permitting would mean we could permit it throughout the township anywhere. Regulate it, which means we could allow a type of license in a certain place. We could also regulate it by time. There's a lot of discretion the township has when it comes to regulating certain licenses, hours of operation, where it could be. This is where zoning comes in. And there also can obviously be a completely ban of any one license. The only thing the township can't ban, and I think this is also important, although we could ban a delivery license, meaning we could say you can't operate your delivery retail in our township, we can't stop others from delivering to our township, nor can we stop people from transporting marijuana through our township if they buy it legally somewhere else. So I just want to make that clear. Although we can ban delivery licenses, meaning if you want to have a delivery business, you can't do it in Livingston, or we can zone for it, or we can regulate it and regulate those hours of operation. Delivery is allowed within the state. And these next 2 bullet points here really get to another point that is going to be throughout, is there's still a lot unknown. And it's not because me or Courtney didn't do our homework. It's because the commission is still going through this. They don't know how many licenses they're going to allow in New Jersey. They don't know, once they establish the amount of licenses, they don't know how many each municipality is going to get. And that's also an important factor. We could pass an ordinance and say we're going to have X number of retail stores, X number of wholesale licenses allowed in town. The commission will only take that under consideration. They can go less than that number, or they can actually go more than that number. In a township like Livingston, they would probably give quite a bit of credence to what our governing body says. That more comes into impact zones. An impact zone is an area that had a high crime rate, and they really want to try to have more available legal marijuana to try to take some black market sales out. I think Livingston, if we came up with a reasonable number in any of these licenses, the commission would probably approve it, but there's no guarantee of that. And licensing, I know licensing is something that people are interested in. There's going to be a municipal side to it and a state side to it. Once the municipality approves a license, if licensing is allowed, the commission then has to have the final.
Currently serving as secretary, and I'm active member on their advocacy and government affairs committee. I also serve as chair of the Young Professionals Council to introduce young members of our community to the pantry and brainstorm ideas on how to increase awareness and involvement. I've also volunteered with Covenant House in Newark for over 4 years and have raised awareness for homeless and trafficked youth by raising money and sleeping on the street. It's very humbling to only have a sleeping bag and a cardboard box for one night in November, but I'm passionate about helping those less fortunate. My wife and I were blessed with 4 healthy children, 2 girls and 2 boys, all born at Morristown Memorial Hospital. I have been an active volunteer in the community, including local Boy and Girl Scout troops, YMCA swimming, and my children's home and school associations. 2 years ago, in partnership with Lafayette Learning Center, I started a fatherhood program, which brings fathers and father figures together to network and share their parenting experiences. In 2015, I was appointed by the mayor to the Morristown Environmental Commission and have contributed to such initiatives as townwide cleanups, Kleitman Woods Park, and Foots Pond. In 2016, I joined the Morristown Democratic Committee, currently serving as treasurer, and have participated on committees to promote voter registration and both education and fundraising initiatives. In 2019, I was appointed by the town council to the Morristown Housing Authority, previously serving as vice chair, and am currently a member of their finance subcommittee. My three top priorities, if elected to serve on the town council, are affordable housing,
This isn't public comment.
environmental issues, parks and recreation.
This ain't public comment.
Some
guy running for office.
Have a marijuana shop where you can smoke.
Back to
This is
Livingston.
not allowed,
We're back to Livingston.
by effective law. If you wanted to have consumption in your municipality, you'd have to do so by separate ordinance. Again, it can be indoor or outdoor. One of the more interesting prohibitions is if you have a consumption license, you're not allowed to sell liquor, tobacco, or nicotine products, or have a retail food establishment. And again, I don't know that we need to get that into it, but if consumption is something that we're going to discuss tonight, it would operate outdoors. You'd have to have some sort of facade so you couldn't see the people smoking. And indoor would mostly, it's like a cigar shop. You'd have to have the correct amount of ventilation. So what's some of the upsides to having retail or having marijuana licenses in your municipality? Obviously, it's the revenue. There's a lot of debate on the revenue, how high the tax should be, how low the tax should be. Again, this is not nothing the township can do. This was state regulated. If you followed the debate in the papers, there was a large debate as should we make this a large revenue stream? But if they did that, obviously the black market sales would continue to rise because that would be cheaper than a retail. So this is what they came up with. By ordinance, we could charge up to 2% of sales on cultivating, manufacturing, or retail, or 1% from wholesale. That's by statute and that's by ordinance, and that's the maximum taxes we can have. So again, I went through the 6 classes, and we can obviously permit, regulate, or ban.
Layout of how you can choose an applicant to come into Morristown, such as environmental factors, labor factors, hiring process, community factors. And you can look at their resume from other states if they're out of towners to see if they fit into not only New Jersey, but into Morristown. These jobs come with well-educated workforce, people with horticulture, botany, chemistry degrees, business degrees. So you'll be losing out on an educated young workforce that could raise a family in your town. So again, I would suggest that please look out Bayonne ordinance. And if you are interested, I have no problem taking you on a tour of the Garden State Dispensary in Woodbridge, which is represented by the UFCW. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Giordano.
The next public speaker is Jeff King. Mr. King, if you would unmute yourself and state your name.
Elizabeth Parkway, Eatontown. Good evening, Mayor and governing body. I appreciate your time very much. I appreciate being able to be heard. I'm sorry I can't be seen, but I'm agreeing with Mr. Giordano on all of his points. Cannabis would be an opportunity for the community to benefit in myriad ways. Financially is just one small way. Jobs, that's important. That helps people's lives. Good jobs. People are being educated at universities as a major for cannabis. This is serious STEM work. As far as the opportunity for people to be healthier, you want an alternative that's safer than alcohol. You want an alternative that's safer than pharmaceuticals. They're addictive and deadly. I think Morristown actually would be a good, it just seems like the right place to have a dispensary of high quality, of like organic. I think of you as I do. I was in the Berkshires of Massachusetts where they have legal cannabis, and that's the way I see it happening for you, kind of as a healthy thing and some tourism. But I don't know. Maybe that's too much Martha Stewart. I don't know. Maybe you have a different future. But I just think that there's real opportunity for the patients. Absolutely, like without a doubt, bend over backwards to get medical access. Like high quality medicine is important. You know, medicine. You know that fits into your master plan. So without a doubt, go there with that. But as far as spiritual use, adult use, it's a safer alternative, and it is a good opportunity for your community. So I appreciate you letting me say my piece. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. King.
The next public speaker is Jamie Van Sciver. I apologize if I mispronounced your name. Jamie, if you would unmute yourself and state your name and address to the record, please.
Avenue in Paulsboro, New Jersey. I'm with sativacross.org, a nonprofit advocating for medical patients' rights. And I'm also a medical cannabis patient in the state. I'm really here to mostly speak to you about medical. We all know that the state, 67% just voted for recreational. So we're at a point in time that that's a reality. I'm asking you not to stigmatize medical, not to take that out of reach of the sick and dying people in your community that would prefer to use that as their medical treatment instead of maybe some pharmaceuticals. I myself have immune illness, systemic lupus. My immune system attacks my soft tissue. So my vital organs, tendons, ligaments, muscles, skin. I was having to take infusions, immune suppressants, anti-malarials to protect my kidneys. I wasn't doing well. And lab work doesn't lie. I'm a million times better on my own cannabis regimen. I'm not taking any pharmaceuticals. People are benefiting from this. The sick, the dying, people are suffering, like seizure disorders, cancer. There's veterans with disabilities now. They have PTSD. Veterans are killing themselves at a rate of 25 per day. I'm not sure if you're familiar with antidepressants, specifically SSRIs, commonly given to veterans. It increases the thought of suicide desire. We really have to do better. I really don't understand when we're at a point in time that people are, for the majority, voting for recreational. Why, when there's so much education and resources available, would you still choose to stigmatize and make it difficult for chronic ill and chronic pain patients? These conditions are not going away. If they start taking pharmaceuticals, you can pretty much expect that they're going to be building tolerances, and in turn, their body needs and wants more. And we're just ravaging people. This is not the way. We have an endocannabinoid system in our body. It's there just as an anatomical fact as our cardiovascular, respiratory systems. And it's meant to work with the plant that was put on this earth and the cannabinoids present in it. At least stop stigmatizing medical. There's people in your community that are already suffering so terribly. And to know that if they took Percocets and everything else, you guys would be cool and you can have that in your community at all the, oh, do you guys vote for all those pharmacies that are selling the fentanyl and the Oxycontin that are killing people? That's the stuff you're using Narcan for. Cannabis has never killed anybody. Cannabis is an exit drug. And every single time that Narcan's used in your community from this point on, I want you to wonder, is any of that blood on your hands? Thanks.
The next public speaker is Lefty Grimes, sativacross.org. If you would please unmute yourself and state your name and address to the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Edward Lefty Grimes, 84 Hanover Road, East Hanover. I'm with Sativa Cross, a 501c3. We're here in New Jersey. We advocate for disabled rights and cannabis patients' rights. And we're here to urge you to maybe make a distinction between the medical and the recreational. It is a very big distinction. You have people that are sick and dying and that are pushed back in line. When they get to the front of that line, the strains that they need are gone. The amounts that they need are gone. We need your help. We're a protected class of people. However, we're getting hit from all sides. We're getting taxed on our medicine. We get a 2% wheelchair tax. We get a 2% cancer tax. And we don't even have representation for that taxation. And where I come from in Bayonne, originally, there's no wheelchair access. So we're getting taxed in Bayonne for wheelchair taxes and nothing to show for it. No wheelchair access. Morristown is actually wonderful for wheelchair access. The only place that's not wheelchair accessible is the recruitment place. Go figure. But Morristown is actually very good with the police have been great to us patients. They allow us to use our medication wherever we are allowed to use tobacco. The cops understand that. We're sick people. We need help. Our medicine is moldy. We're buying moldy medicine, overpriced moldy medicine now. That's what we're stuck with. And you wonder why patients are going to the black market. We're getting hit from all sides here. Like I said, the taxes is bad enough. But would you tax insulin? That's a slippery slope we're going down if we start taxing medicines. How would you like it if we taxed your medicine? Something that you need. And it was priced out of, and plus our insurance doesn't pick it up either, which is another horrible issue. We need your help. Consider yourself in a wheelchair for a day, how that would feel. I've been to hundreds of council meetings, literally. And I've asked hundreds of council people, spend a day in a wheelchair with me. And not one has taken me up on that, to spend a day in a wheelchair with me. I think it would be a breeze in Morristown because Morristown is very wheelchair accessible. If you guys want to do that with me, that would be fine. But there's no dispensaries in Morris County. I can't get my medicine here. I have to go out of town, somewhere far away, 30 minutes at least, to get my medicine. Now, picture yourself in a wheelchair with no money and no access. You have to pay for an Uber ride. Well, Uber doesn't take wheelchairs a lot of times. So you got to consider the sick and dying when you do this ordinance. 68%. 68%, no, not the number you're thinking of. 68% of Jesus' miracles were for the disabled. That's true. Pastor Tim, Liquid Church, taught me that. And he also taught me that there's no left or right. There's only an up or down. So Republicans and Democrats voted for this bill. But we need to do what's right by God and help the sick and the dying first before we do anything else. Across the river, they can grow cannabis for fun, for kicks, for jollies. Over in New Jersey, we grow cannabis for your sick kid or for someone with cancer. You're going to jail. So please consider the sick and the dying when you make an ordinance about cannabis. They went with songs to the battle. They were young, straight of limb, true of eye, steady and aglow. They were staunch to the end against odds uncounted. They fell with their faces to the foe. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning we will remember them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grimes. The next speaker is Rev Ria. Can you please unmute yourself and state your name and address to the record, please?
I'm sorry, that's Marina, Marina, last name Rebman, Rebmann, and I'm in Sayreville, New Jersey. And I'd like to discuss a little bit my journey with medical marijuana and how much it's helped me. Between the ages of 1 and 4.5, I had a bunch of surgeries on my leg. I was born with a birth defect. Back then, the parents weren't allowed to be in the hospital room with you at night. They weren't allowed to stay. They had a certain hours where the parents had to go away, which was really scary and terrifying for a little kid. You know, when you have surgery, when a kid has surgery, the mother and father are allowed to walk the kid into the room, carry the kid, hold the kid, give the little kisses. No, I was wheeled in there, told to be a big girl. I was 1, 2, 3, and 4. Be a big girl, don't cry. So what do? You have anxiety attacks. And then a couple of years ago, unfortunately, I was diagnosed with cancer. And I lost 50 pounds in 3 weeks. It took me over a month for me to get my medical marijuana card. And it was horrible. The chemo, they tried to give me all these different types of drugs. It didn't work. Once I started getting my medical marijuana, it changed me. I have such bad anxiety. Sometimes when I see doctors, they will say, please smoke before you see me. Have you ever heard of a doctor saying, please smoke before you see me? In your town, in Morristown, you have 9 different doctors, different types of doctors who prescribe medical marijuana. Just imagine being a patient. It's hard for you to get around. You go to a doctor and then you got to drive. You got to drive like 30 minutes away, an hour away. Some of the doctors are family practice, an oncology doctor. Now, when you have an oncology doctor, you're upset, you're tired, you're sick from the medicine. You just want to go back home. If he prescribes it, you don't want to drive so far away. It's horrible. You even have a pediatric doctor who prescribes this. So you have a child, and you're in the town, and you have a pediatric doctor describe this, and yet you have to go so far away to get it. This is about care and compassion. This is about love. This is about giving back to the community you're serving. It's just medical. And if you have any questions you'd like to ask me, please do so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman, there's no more public speakers.
All right, we'll close the public hearing. Council responses to public hearing. I guess I'll just start off.
People in this community already responsibly exercise the personal liberty to cultivate for purpose.
I want to hear Justin.
Morristown is the last meeting we set out to create a committee of residents to devise legislation about it. I would say we have heard all your comments and appreciate your input. We've received a dozen or so of interested people, and I've asked each of the ward council members to make a recommendation about 2 of their preference for two members from their ward to represent the ward along with the original council committee.
Livingston is to really lead here and to hold ourselves out and say, we do this well. And the other thing is with home cultivation, if we're doing this well, we can actually have a conversation with our friends in blue to say, what can you respect on personal property, and have a hand in writing that law. All 3 of our state representatives, our senator and our 2 assembly members, voted for this. Senator Cody originally wasn't for this. He came around to this. There's a lot of opportunity here. There's a lot of opportunity if you're going to fight for Livingstonites to open up something something special. And this could be one small part of revitalization. So thank you very much for doing this. Thank you for your leadership, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Justin.
Next up is Jeff King.
Good evening, Mayor. My name is Jeff King. I'm at 24 Elizabeth Parkway in Eatontown. I am not local, so I will respectfully be very brief. The prior 2 gentlemen spoke very eloquently and made many fine points in favor of you being open-minded and progressive with your thoughts as far as zoning for cannabis businesses. I want to definitely appeal to your better angels and your compassion for patients who are sick and suffering who could benefit. There's a lot of efficacy for many, many different conditions, some very horrible diseases and some chronic diseases, autoimmune. We know people that suffer and that cannabis could help. So I beg of you to, by all means, bend over backward to do anything you can for these kind of people. The AARP has endorsed medical cannabis, and they are no Johnny-come-lately kind of group. Everyone knows the AARP, and they had an issue more than a year ago. Before COVID, they had an issue that featured their point of view on that. It was good reading. And in addition to the AARP, my father is a longtime member of the American Legion, and that's a great veterans organization, and they've a wonderful resource online. If you just Google American Legion and medical cannabis, it'll come right up, and there's tons of information there. So I think that you can see where I'm going with this. I really want to take our most fragile and suffering or needful people and put them in the front of the line, so to speak, for our priority as a community. And if people that are using it socially or spiritually are beneficial to your community for that, that's up to you. You can work on the zoning in a similar way that you would zone other businesses that have traffic concerns. Eatontown is actually the host to a satellite dispensary of Garden State Dispensary. As Hugh mentioned, it's working out okay for us. It's on Highway 35, which bisects the Monmouth County, and it's the main concern was traffic. And when it was approved without much concern because it fit in the zone really, and people were so happy to hear that it's by appointment, because that was really the main thing. They didn't want to have bunched up traffic. And when they learned it was by appointment, they were thrilled. It was already approved when they learned that. So people were always positive. So just check it out. If you don't want to check out Eatontown or New Jersey, go up to the Berkshires in Massachusetts. It's 3 hours to Great Barrington. Pittsfield, check out North Adams. You could see the Boston Pops if COVID ends, but Norman Rockwell, that could be Livingston. So thank you very much for allowing me to speak. Good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Robert Allen.
Hi, may I request that my camera be turned on, please?
I don't think it's turned off. Should automatically be on.
It's not.
Don't. I guess to do that, I have to promote you to panelist. Okay, that might work. There you go.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Now you can start the clock. Thanks everyone for having me to participate. Robert Allen Ehrlich. I'm a 29-year resident of Livingston. I'm part of the skate park committee, responsible for building the skate park in town. I work closely with the HCHY. I'm very visible and active in the community. In 2017, I approached then Councilman Klein about whether the council had begun the conversation about cannabis legalization. At the time, they had not. I became reacquainted with the town discussion about cannabis when they tried to sneak in a ban on cannabis in November of 2019 by having a change made to the township master plan. Some community members caught wind of what was going on. We interceded, and the planning board kicked it back to the council as it should have. At that point, the decision was made to have a series of town discussions about possible legalization and how the town would handle things. Well, COVID hit, and that never happened. But what did happen before that was I had the chance to take two council members, both Al Anthony and Michael Vieira, on personal tours of the Harmony Dispensary in Secaucus, because none of us had ever been inside of any dispensary. Now that the legalization's here, we turn to the discussion to commerce. I'd like to ask if the Chamber of Commerce was specifically invited to attend this meeting tonight.
I believe they were. I know that Beth Littman actually reached out to the chamber and asked for businesses who would want to come and speak tonight. So,
okay, well, I'm on the board of the Chamber of Commerce, and I'm unaware of any outreach, so I'll have to check that. But thank you.
That's when Beth Littman told us that.
So this is about commerce. I know there was talk about involving the Board of Education and talking about an industry that's regulated for people 21 and over. But I'm very surprised that there wasn't direct outreach to the business community about this discussion. Let me paint a little picture for all of you of what's going to transpire about a year from now. So my wife Holly and I are planning a romantic weekend at home. Holly's given me a list of everything I need to stop and get and every place I need to stop and get it at. On that list is everything I can get in Livingston, except for Bubba Kush. Now, Bubba Kush isn't Holly's pet name for me, but it's our favorite indica strain of cannabis. And say it puts us in the right frame of mind, if you know what I mean. Anyway, so I got my list and I look at it, and because Livingston banned cannabis, I can't get it in Livingston, so not a problem. I'm just going to head into West Orange because they just opened a beautiful cannabis emporium right where the old Macy's was in the Essex Green Shopping Center. You know where that is, right? So easy enough. I hop in my car. 10 minutes later, I'm inside a state-of-the-art cannabis store for adults 21 and over. A few minutes later, I leave with Bubba Kush and a few other things. I can't wait to get home. Then I remember I've got other stops to make, other things to get. Well, wait a second. Hey, isn't ShopRite right around the corner here in West Orange? I think I'll go there. So's Total Wine. In fact, I'm going to stop into Panera and get those delicious chocolate chip cookies. And while I'm there, I'm going to get birdseed at the pet store right next door. As a matter of fact, on the way home, I'm going to stop at Metropolitan Plant Exchange and get Holly some flowers. It makes that Bubba Kush even more effective. Then Pepe's for those delicious ribs. I'll pass by Mark and Julie's, pick up some ice cream on the way home. And of course, last stop will be that bagel box for bagels for Sunday morning. Then I'll just head up back the hill to Livingston, having done all of my errands in West Orange. I took care of it because Livingston decided to ban cannabis. It was more convenient for me to do it right where I was, just like everyone will. Let me tell you something. A ban on any part of the cannabis industry is going to be a ban on the entire cannabis industry. The cannabis community, very close, very tight. People talk. Cannabis businesses want to do business with towns that are cannabis friendly. If you ban any part of cannabis, of the cannabis industry, you might as well ban all of it, because there will be no reputable cannabis business that will want to do business in Livingston if you're going to enact a ban. Maybe while we're at it, let's change the slogan of Livingston. We'll say Livingston, New Jersey, shop elsewhere. And just to address the comment of the business owner originally about traffic, let's talk about the line that sometimes snakes out onto Eisenhower Parkway for people lined up to get their Starbucks coffee. I guarantee you the people in that line are far more aggressive than anybody waiting to get legal cannabis. Thank you for your time. I reserve the remainder of my time, if there is any, for additional comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, just to be clear, there's no reservation of time tonight. There's only one turn per speaker.
I would also just clarify Mr. Allen's comments. I was invited by him to go to see the dispensary in Secaucus, and I had said no to him because I have been to dispensaries before. So what he said on that point was not accurate.
And if I can just follow up as well, I've probably seen without Robert, Robert needing to give me a tour around, probably seen at least 5 or 6 different dispensaries in New Jersey, and I've seen a number out of state. And I don't really need anybody to give me a tour of any of them.
Thank you.
Okay, since we're all disclaiming ourselves, I've also been to a few myself, and I didn't need a tour from somebody else. So since we're all on the same page, but thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Mr. Shen.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, George, welcome.
Hi, yeah, this is George Shen, 126 East Cedar Street. I came to Livingston because of the school district and because of the reputation and because of all the friends here. And Livingston has, to my number, 17 to 20% of the Chinese population, about 25% of Asian community. And everybody knows what the opioid has done to China in 150 years ago. So I'm kind of surprised to hear the evidence showing that the cannabis business will help the business. Let's see, if we just need to have more employment, then we need more hospital, we need more therapy, we need more psychological doctors, and maybe we need more police to deal with the cannabis increase. So think about it, the increase of the employment is not the purely goal for our community and society. Remember, many years ago, tobacco is very popular. In China, many people use that one. And in US, when I came here 20 years ago, a lot of people use tobacco. Only after many years, you find out how damage that comes to your body. And we start to ban tobacco inside the building. And right now, more and more companies, they don't allow employees to use that one. So there are some medical effects you cannot see in the short term. So in summary, I don't support to have the cannabis business to open in Livingston. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Barry, we're getting a text. Just someone reached out to Councilman Anthony that they're getting blocked somehow. Are we blocking anyone, or is there any mechanism we have for blocking people who want to comment? Barry?
Drew, do you see him as an attendee?
Stephen Gilbert, yeah, I see Steve Gilbert as an attendee, but he's saying he's blocked. Steve, are you saying you're being blocked from raising your hand? Is that what you're saying? Can you text one of us so we can understand?
Yeah, he's telling me he's blocked right now.
Blocked from what, though?
From, if he texts me, Stephen, if you could hear, Facebook chat.
Facebook comments in the feed, it talks, there's a suggestion he's being blocked. I don't even know how to administer the thing, nor do I, so I don't know that there's any reason he would be blocked. I know he had trouble the other day with the town's Facebook page. I can try and follow up, but if he's here, he can certainly comment in this meeting.
Yeah, I don't think that we have any mechanism for blocking anyone on the town Facebook. No. We know. All right, so I'm not sure what's going on there, but Steve, obviously, if you have questions or comments that you want to make on the Zoom, we're more than happy to hear them.
Next up is, you ready for the next person?
Yeah.
Okay, Lefty Grimes, sativacross.org.
Good evening, Council. My name is Edward Lefty Grimes. I'm with sativacross.org. We're a 501c3 here in New Jersey, advocating for the disabled and for cannabis patients' rights. I live at 84 Hanover Road, East Hanover. I'm right next door. I'm in Livingston all the time. And I would really appreciate a medical cannabis dispensary because we advocate for medical. We're not advocating for recreational, but we're advocating for medical. The people that are suffering in wheelchairs are being pushed to the back of the line now. And that's not how it should be. The people that are last should be first. And when they get to the front of the line, though, the strains that they need, they're usually out of. The amounts that they need, they're out of. And the price range is outrageous. We're talking about sick people on disability in wheelchairs. They don't have a lot of money. And we're getting hit from all sides. I mean, we need your help because, first of all, our medicine's being taxed. I don't know how any of you feel if your medicine was taxed. If you have insulin or anything that you take, if they started taxing your medicine, that's a slippery slope for the government to start taxing medicine. It's bad enough we tax wheelchairs and cancer now with this tax, this 2% tax. I do ask for representation with that taxation. If you're going to tax people in wheelchairs, at least give us wheelchair access in every business in these towns that enact that tax. But like I said, we're getting hit from all sides. We need your help because towns are banning our medicine, making people in wheelchairs. How far do you expect someone to go in a wheelchair? I mean, spend a day in a wheelchair and you'll see what it's like. It's not easy. And to try to get a ride somewhere, well, you have to incur that cost. An Uber may not take your wheelchair. And it's just making life difficult for the sick and the dying. And we need to put them first in life. I don't know if there's any Christians on this council, but 68% of Jesus's miracles were for the disabled. They have a special place in God's heart, and I think in our heart too, we need to take care of them. You can grow cannabis in New York for fun, for kicks, just for fun. In New Jersey, if you grow cannabis for your dying child or for someone with cancer, you're going to go to jail. You're going to catch a felony. There's a lot of things that aren't fair with this law. And we need to make it more fair for the sick and the dying. I'm hearing a lot of feedback. I don't know what that is, but I hear
We can hear you just fine, sir.
Yeah, it's just distracting. I'm sorry. So please, when you consider this ordinance, consider the sick and the dying people. Consider that I was on opiates for 10 years. I have an artificial disc. I have a fusion L4L5, L5S1. I had a 2-level cervical on my neck. And I was on roxicodone, 90 milligrams of roxicodone every 3 hours. And that's an insane amount. My doctor was trying to kill me. They didn't care. And it was very hard to get off that. I wasn't abusing it, but I was using it for my pain, and it was not easy. It took me 10 months to get off those pills. Titrating down from 90 milligrams to 45 to 30 to 15 to 4, and hit the wall at 4. And I bought a big bag of cannabis, and I tried to get off of it using that big bag of cannabis, and it didn't work the first time. Didn't work the second or third time. It took 4 times. And if knowing now what I've known then, I would have made it easier on myself using oils. I didn't use any oils. I would have used oils. I would have used tinctures, edibles, suppositories. Those are all things I use now. When I had this 2-level cervical fusion on my neck, I didn't use any opiates. 0. And I was actually shocked because I've been using cannabis for 40 years. 40 years, I'd never in a million years would think that I could have surgery just using cannabis, tinctures, suppositories, edibles. But it was amazing, and that's God's medicine. God will continue to amaze you. This medicine helps many different conditions. And the thing is, when you ban this medicine, a lot of these towns that ban it, they sell synthetic medicine in the pharmacy. They sell synthetic marijuana. It's called Marinol or Dronabinol. So they'll stigmatize God's medicine that God put here, but the man-made bastardized version of cannabis is sold in a drugstore, along with the other deadly opiates. And your cops are running around Narcaning people all night because of the opiates that are sold in pharmacies. The cannabis is an exit drug. It may be a gateway drug for a few people because there's 10% of the people that are addicted to anything. There's 10% of our people that are going to be addicted to food, gambling, sex, anything like that. So yeah. I know some people that, they couldn't use cannabis because it may trigger something else. But for most people that I know, it's an exit drug. All the people that I know that are getting off these opiates, they're using cannabis to get off those opiates. It was very helpful to me. It was a lifesaver for me. It was a lifesaver for my friends. My friend who started this 501c3, they gave him 4 months to live back in 2016. He had stage 4 cancer. They didn't consider the fact that he was going to use oils and suppositories and tinctures. And that's what he did. And instead of that 4 months, he turned it into 4 years. And he became the best activist I've ever seen in my life for the past 4 years. He would go to these council meetings strapped with a chemo bag strapped to him. And he'd be fighting for his life, fighting for other people's lives. And his message, Jeff's message, was compassion and love. That's all he asked for from these councils. And that's all I'm asking for. Just have compassion for the sick and the dying. You want to ban recreational, that's whatever, but at least consider people in wheelchairs and the sick and the dying before you do anything. They went with songs to the battle. They were young, straight of limb, true of eye, steady and aglow. They were staunch to the end against odds uncounted. They fell with their faces to the foe. They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes.
I want
No?
to start with a question real quick. Okay?
Yeah.
Oh, Jared, before on the PowerPoint, there was cultivation, manufacturing, wholesale, distribution, retail, and delivery. The gentleman who was just speaking was medicinal marijuana or dispensary for medicinal marijuana. Which of those six, if it's already established, would that one fall under, or is that still in?
Thank you, Councilman. So there currently are medicinal marijuana laws. This bill didn't affect those laws, so those laws remain in effect. So it's already a class. It could already be allowed. It could already be zoned. The only difference is the commission is now going to actually regulate medicinal marijuana when they did in the past. So that's really the only change. But as far as I know, the laws of medicinal marijuana were largely unaffected by this bill.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarification. Good question. Okay. Barry, you want to let Keith on?
Oh, shoot. Keith, you're on.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I think what I'm saying to this is the law enforcement side. Now, do the law still apply if someone gets smoking marijuana in their car while they're driving? Is that still a serious offense? Because, you know, that's going to happen. If someone's driving and they're stoned on marijuana driving a car, is them laws still in effect? You know, if they hit something? I don't see, is this law same? Because I think the way it's made now, that the cops can't do nothing more than that. They smell marijuana in the cars. You know what I mean? Calling their parents. They need, you know, I don't think that's fair to the police.
But they're not supposed to have it unless they're 20.
Now, are they allowed to have it in the car? Are they allowed to smoke in the car or what? I'm because I'm looking it up. It says the odor of marijuana right up to minors. I'm to my minors now. Then I go to, it says first offense is written notice to parents. Now, and it says down here, the third sequential violation is a written notification to the parents and referred to Access Community Service.
Sorry, that involves minors. Just so you know, that was
okay.
that's
Now,
minors.
right now.
Minors aren't supposed to have it.
No, mine is on. So now let's get to 20. Now, let's say someone is 21 years old and they're high and they're driving a car. Does the laws apply like alcohol? If they get in a crash?
Yes, they'd be under the influence.
So do the cops contest that or not yet? If the guy's only high on marijuana, can they test for that without looking at their eyes and stuff like that?
Only my understanding is only blood work is able at this point to determine whether someone has marijuana products in their system.
And observational.
So will they get arrested and then draw blood? That's how it works? That takes a lot of time. Although marijuana can stay in the system a long time. That's what I'm, talking
Right,
about.
that's the other, right. Marijuana can stay in your system for 30 days. So there are not good mechanisms for checking to see if someone is driving while under the influence of marijuana at this point.
And the second thing, I do agree with the couple of gentlemen's back. I think you should have a dispensary for the sick and the dying. I think that's very important in Livingston. Money's not everything in this world, taking tax and stuff, but I think you should have a dispensary for people who are sick and dying. That's very important. You should work on that too.
I thought there was a difference between medical and recreational.
What?
I thought there's a difference between medical marijuana.
There's a difference between medical marijuana and recreational marijuana, right? There's a difference? Or it's the same thing?
They're two different licenses.
Yeah.
Okay, another thing, and I'll be out of here. Another thing, I think you should have some education about this. Maybe another forum or go on, online and have maybe an education class so people can really educate themselves about the law and also about what happens to marijuana in the body and stuff like that. I think you guys should do that too, through the education of Livingston. That'd be very good. So thank you for your time.
Thanks, Keith. Jamie Van Skyver?
That's correct. And be seen, please.
Yeah, hang on.
Thank you.
Okay, should be coming in. Is your camera on or your video? There you go.
Okay. Good evening, Council, Mayor. I'm Jamie Van Skyver. I am from Paulsboro, New Jersey. Not from your community, but I do care about the sick and the dying people in your community. I am with Sativa Cross, as mentioned, a nonprofit advocating for medical patients' rights, and I also myself am a patient. I would like to ask you to be very cautious about making the distinction between medical and recreational. We are at a point in time that recreational is legalized right now. 67% of New Jersey voted for it, including your community and your constituents. I don't know why you're not listening to them. But I'm not here to talk about recreational. I'm here to talk about the sick and the dying and chronic illness and chronic pain. When you have chronic illness and pain, they're not going away. And I think we can all understand that that can kind of lead to a path of endless pharmaceuticals. When you're taking pain medication, your body builds tolerances, and in turn, your body needs and wants more, and it's just ravaging, destructive to the system. These chemicals are not meant to be there. They're masking a problem. They're not healing anything. I personally have immune illness, systemic lupus. My immune system attacks all of my soft tissue. So my organs, obviously that's not good. My muscles, tendons, ligaments, skin, pretty much everything that's not bone. I had to take a lot of medication, infusions to try to shut my immune system down so it wouldn't attack. Immune suppressant, anti-malarials to protect my kidneys because they were a favorite target. And obviously this doesn't lead to feeling well. So antidepressants and everything else. And I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with antidepressants, specifically SSRIs. A common thing that they tell you to be very cautious and aware of is the increased desire for suicide. We're not going down the right path with this. We have veterans that need cannabis. They have physical disabilities. They have PTSD. Why are we giving them pharmaceuticals that make them want to kill themselves more? We have an endocannabinoid system in our body. It's there. It's anatomically there. Just like our cardiovascular system, our respiratory system, and this system in our body is completely malnourished in about 85% of the population. And this system in my body that was placed there by God is meant to work with a plant that was placed on this earth by God. I just ask that you please recognize, or if you don't, I'd be happy to answer questions. We have a lot of information available. We have a union representative that would be more than happy to take you on a tour and show you factual things, not what you saw out of control somewhere else. It's very controlled. It's very secure. There's no children being exposed to anything. I just please ask that you recognize the difference between medical and recreational. Like recreational is legal. The state wants it. Your constituents want it. But that's not even what I'm asking for. I'm asking you to please making me and other sick and dying people feel stigmatized and putting it out of reach and making it so hard to get. If I wanted to take all these terrible pills, pain meds, they'd be free. They'd be delivered to my door. I wouldn't have to take an $80 Uber ride anywhere. It's hard. Please don't make it harder for people in your community. People's lives are depending on it. Nobody's ever overdosed on cannabis. Think about the chronic illness and the chronic pain and know that those ailments are not going away for these people, and ask yourself, are you choosing a path of destructive pharmaceuticals for them? Are you standing in way of them having a natural wellness plan that they're not going to die from, that's working with their body, that's changing my lab work, that my rheumatologist is consulting me. She wants us to help other people. Please take everything I said into consideration and at least don't stigmatize and make it harder for the chronic pain and chronic ill people in your community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Rev Ree. So I don't know what the Rev Ree.
Yes, I'm sorry. That's Marina Redmond. May I also- Oh, it's Marina Redmond, Passaic, New Jersey. May I also be seen, please?
I'm sorry, Mayor, can we have the address again? I couldn't hear.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Sayreville, New Jersey.
Okay.
May I be
Love to
seen?
hear from Livingston residents here, but okay.
Can I be seen, please?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
important. I'm a medical cannabis patient. I just want to show you how well it's doing me.
Okay, you're coming in. Your video on?
There we go. Hi, I'm Marina Redmond, and I'm a medical cannabis patient. I take it for anxiety and also, unfortunately, for stage 4 cancer. My anxiety started when I was 4.5 years old, or between 4.5 years old. I had to have many surgeries on my leg. I was born with a birth defect. Back then, your parents weren't allowed to stay in the hospital. They told me to be a big girl, to suck it up, and whatever they said back then. And this was really scary. And then when I had to have surgeries, I wheeled into the operating room. The parents weren't allowed to bring me in. They told me to be a big girl, and it was rather scary. This is the reason why I have such bad anxiety. But a couple of years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And it took me 3 weeks for me to get my medical cannabis card. I lost 50 pounds in 3 weeks because of all the medicines they gave me. As soon as I was once on medical cannabis, it was a game changer. It was awesome. I felt so much better. I could start doing things. I could start walking around. I could start eating more. It was such a, it's such a game changer. Just medical cannabis is so beautiful. You have in your town 15 doctors that prescribe medical cannabis. So just imagine being in your town, you can go to a doctor that prescribes medical cannabis, but yet you have to get a ride or drive somewhere 30 minutes away or an hour. Some of the doctors are a psychiatrist, 5 neurologists, a surgeon, pediatrics, family practice, a rehab doctor. These are just wonderful people who are helping out your town officials. And it would be more wonderful if you guys could have a dispensary in your town. Like someone was saying, I think it was Jamie saying, it could cost you $80 to go to a dispensary. Now, if you're disabled, they don't want to take you. If you're in a wheelchair, good luck. If you're in an electric wheelchair, better luck, because that's not going to happen. If you want to take Access Link, it's called Access Link because it's horrible. And if you have a service dog, that ain't going to happen because all of a sudden everyone's allergic to service dogs. So just please reconsider, or please just have medical cannabis in your town, just to help the sick and dying out, the people who are suffering. I have to go 30 minutes away for my medicine. And I'm lucky I could go there now. I had to have a surgery. It was 6 hours long. I couldn't take my medicine in the hospital. They said I'd be in the hospital 4 to 6 days. I was in there for 8 because I couldn't take my medicine because the medicine got me so sick. They had me on all sorts of opioids. As soon as I came home, I started taking my medical cannabis. I turned around. I felt so much better. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions you'd like to ask me, please do so.
Thank you.
Let's hear from some residents if we can. If anyone who's not from town, can they just lower their hand for a few minutes so we can hear from some Livingston residents, so they don't keep getting bumped back?
Yeah, and I also, Mayor, I'd just remind everyone that whereas everybody obviously has heard, I think, compelling stories about the medical, the purpose of tonight's forum relates to the new legislation, which, as Mr. Cantor already indicated, doesn't affect the medical marijuana. So this is really a decision that council has to make on things other than medical marijuana.
These are important stories that we're hearing, but
Right.
That's not the point of what we're here for tonight.
Yeah, and of course, I don't know names, whether they're residents or not. So this one just comes in as Lior, Lior.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for having this. I'm Mayor, Council. So I want to echo some of the points. I mean, thank you to Robert for giving us a very detailed shopping experience.
We need your address, please.
Oh, 23 Brookside Avenue.
Okay. And last name?
Lycorn.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. So, I mean, I think ultimately it is, in my mind, right, and I'm just providing an opinion, marijuana is a reality, right? It's legal. It's an inevitability, and I think ultimately the choice for the town is, it just kind of makes me think of the potential George Carlin saying, right, not in my backyard. But I'm not viewing this as something that's going to attract a bad element. It is marijuana, right? Where we have plenty of liquor stores, and I think, like, in my mind, this would be a far more valuable addition to town. But I think ultimately, really, the point of having a location where one can buy marijuana is really about education, right? I think it's an opportunity for folks, especially those who maybe view this as something very far worse than it is, right? And I don't think it's a drug in my mind. It's really about wellness, right? And it's about experiencing something that is natural, right? I think from an opiate epidemic standpoint, the problem is opium, right? And I think if we take a page from Colorado, we take a page from Massachusetts, right, we're not seeing these dramatic increases in crime and neighborhoods going to hell or any of that, right? I think it's just a very ordinary part of business. And if I had a business in town, maybe one of the 50 pieces locations we have here, I would be delighted that this would be right next door. But I think from a resident perspective, historically, I was not very educated on it. And having gone to a dispensary, it's really an opportunity where you're learning about different options, right? It's not just weed is weed. Right, there's indica strains, there's sativa strains. They're all really very specific. And I just remember my first time going to a dispensary in Colorado, and it was really, the question was, what are you looking for? Is it an experience where are you having problems sleeping? Is it anxiety? Is it is it a loss of focus? And I think we really understand that this plant really can offer, specific benefits to people who are just open-minded and willing to learn about it. Right, 21 and over. I mean, people that are going to use it they're going to use it. It's right. Do we want to take part in that? I mean, it's going to come into town regardless. I just think we need to educate ourselves and say, do we want to be part of this opportunity from an economic standpoint? And yeah, maybe initially it would attract a lot of folks, but just like everything else, right, it will plateau and kind of reach a very normal stasis and become just kind of like a natural part of potentially everybody's shopping experience, right? Go to ShopRite, pick up Baba Kush or God knows what else, and then right, and just kind of have a night with your significant other. And if I had, my children are young, I'm not looking to, blind them from this reality. But if I had a 21-year-old who would be interested in pursuing, smoking, and they'll probably try it much younger, I would rather that they would go to a place where somebody could educate them and give them like perspective and give them this whole natural introduction to learning about it rather than getting it God knows where else, right? So I think ultimately it's incumbent on us to really educate ourselves and look at the benefits that this offers from a recreational perspective, because I would look at it almost like as banning liquor stores here, and so people will just go to West Orange and somewhere else and buy liquor there, because literally it's the same thing at this point now that it's legal, and it's just going to become legal, much more, and ultimately we'll reach the same level where it's just legal nationwide, and I think we'll just end up being behind the curve and scramble, right, to kind of catch up. So I think it's really just focusing on the fact that we're just there is no hiding from it. There is no, preventing this from happening. It's just preventing Livingston from benefiting from it. So that's my 2 cents. I thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Here we are.
Next up is Jeff Sternstein.
Hi, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I'm Jeff Sternstein, 36 Coddington Terrace. I'm a 24-year resident of Livingston. I did attend the township meeting, the very stealthy township meeting to try to zone out cannabis, and was at the meeting when at the time 100% of those represented on the board said that they had not gone to a medical marijuana dispensary at the time. You were not there, Mayor. But 100% of the people there at that township meeting raised their hand and said that they had not gone. Actually, none of them raised their hand when asked who had gone. And that was when Michael and others were kind enough to take up the invitation to go and experience it. I'm glad that people have somehow educated themselves in the interim so that we can now have a more informed debate. But I agree with everything that's been said by the council here. We're not here to determine the legality of recreational marijuana. That's been determined already. That's sealed. That's voted on. We're not here to see the way the constituents that you represent voted, right? You know that. That's not in question. You have that information available to you. We're not here to determine if the state is going to have any kind of legal construct for dealing with these issues. That's already being worked on because this is being addressed at the state level. And it's not a question about whether residents are going to use cannabis. Your residents are currently using cannabis. High school students probably have one of the highest rates in the county for using cannabis. That's not a question here. The question is, as I think Lior very eloquently stated, very simple. It's whether or not we want to have this convenient to the members of our town and whether we want to benefit from the revenue. All of the arguments for marijuana are based on fact, right? Including the fact that the state voted for it. All of the things that I'm hearing that are concerns about marijuana are really purely conjecture and continue to get me upset as somebody who's attended medical forums on marijuana, the first endocannabinoid system medical forum held by Havas, hundreds of physicians in attendance, and truly have an education about the effects of cannabis on the body. I do not think it is something to be taken lightly, nor do I think the state took it lightly. I think now it's just up to those two questions. Is this something that the township is going to vote in a way that's consistent with its constituents? Is it going to make it convenient for its constituents? And is it going to provide the revenue that is part of the reason why their constituents voted for it or not? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next up is Carrie Parikh.
Hi, Carrie.
Hey, all. Thanks for having me on. Carrie Parikh, 2 Frieden or Freedon, depending on which side of the street you live on, drive. I really appreciate the comments of Robert and Justin and those that have testified about how critical medical marijuana is to their health. Thank you. I know how demeaning and demoralizing it is to beg for basic health care, so your words are absolutely appreciated and do not go unnoticed. But of course, we're here to talk about recreational. And look, I don't think we can ignore the revenue benefits that will be won or lost, likely, if business goes to other neighboring towns, either via pickup or delivery, because look, we can't stop delivery vehicles from coming into town. And who knows what's going to be advertised on the side of those vehicles, to the point where they might even appear as a storefront. But I really want to take a minute to touch on the main reason for this new law. And I don't think it's come up enough tonight. And that's criminal justice reform and anti-racism. Right? I've spoken to many members of this council and stood shoulder to shoulder with some of them as we fought against hate, and we sought to bring diversity and inclusion and justice to Livingston. And right here, right now, we have an opportunity to be on the front lines of this fight, right? We have a chance to be leaders on leveling the playing field. But I'm worried a little bit, however, that we're all for justice and being anti-hate, except not for when the work actually has to happen in our own backyards. Right? If we surrender, if we ban or opt out, we're not a part of the justice reform movement. We're hurdles. We're throwing up hurdles. We're saying justice is great, but only when other people do the work, right? Let other towns decide. And I know that's not what this council is about. I know you all as progressives and on the side of justice and against racism and for criminal justice reform. I know all of you personally as friends who are leaders. So please, please, please don't let my expectations be falsely believed, because this isn't just about Livingston. It's about all of New Jersey. And look, it's predominantly about people of color, groups that have to keep fighting for their basic right to even live these days, let alone get a fair shake in the criminal justice system. If we keep speaking out loudly at the Inclusion Committee and at rallies at the Circle and through Facebook diversity programs, but we don't take this opportunity to act, we might as well have all been silent. And I don't think silence is right. Silence is violence. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Oh, that's my daughter clapping in
Next up, John and Trada.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me? All right.
Yeah, name and
just a
address.
question. John,
Name and address.
26 Irving Avenue.
Thank you.
And I live right in the center of town, and I love that I can walk anywhere I need to, get everything I need, rather than I have to drive anywhere. But I do have to ask, if we are the kind of town that has, I think, 3 liquor stores in this town, why is it that there are some people that are against having a cannabis retail establishment in this town? Is it a cultural thing? Is it prejudice? Is it a lifestyle issue? I just have to ask, what kind of person are you if you think that cannabis in this town is going to make this town less of an appealing place to live? If anything, it'd be a lot better, because we are allowing something that is a lot safer than alcohol, than opioids. And that's just my question. So if we have 3 liquor stores in this town, why can we not have a cannabis retail establishment or any kind of cannabis business in this town? What does that say about our culture? And that's all.
Thank you, John. I'm still getting, I got a couple texts here from Steve Gilbert saying that he was blocked or silenced or something. I'm not sure what's going on.
I don't know. He's now able, he's posting under, I assume that's his wife's account or name, but I don't know how, unless somebody who's not part of this meeting doing something on our Facebook.
Well, I got a text from Judith saying that nobody is blocked on the Facebook page. So it's not clear to me why he would be having trouble.
I don't know.
Mayor, can you just call in on the number?
Yeah, I'm not sure why he's not doing that, but whatever he's choosing to do, he's having trouble, and obviously that's not the goal of what we're doing here tonight. So, Steve, if you want to come on, we want to hear what you have to say. I don't know why you're having trouble on Facebook, but there are other ways of getting your voice out, and so please use them. We certainly want to hear from you.
Anybody else, raise your hand. Right now, we don't have any hands raised. Okay, here we go. Sarah Silverstein.
It's Silverstein.
Yeah, no, the letters. Trying to read it.
Yeah, I know. It's confusing to a lot of people. I'm Sarah Silverstein, 115 Turlington Court. I've been sort of hand raised and hand lowered the whole time, sort of want to sort of echo a lot of the really great points about bringing this industry into our town. Obviously, very regulated, obviously, very carefully. I don't think that's without question. But when I've lived here for almost 14 years. I have 2 kids in the school. And so I'm, a parent, I get it. I get the sort of anxiety about it, but the fact of the matter is that so many people have said, it's here, it's happening. And I think it's just this sort of history, which is tied up in a lot of prejudice and racism, that somehow cannabis is the scary, dangerous thing and alcohol is, more culturally accepted, as the speaker before me said, that we have several liquor stores in this town. And I don't think that comparing a marijuana dispensary to a gun store or a gentleman's club is a fair comparison in any way, shape, or form. I actually find that totally bizarre and offensive. I've been to dispensaries in other states. They are understated, nice. Pretty nice spa, which is kind of weird. But when I drive down Livingston Avenue and I see storefront after storefront empty, for lease, very, and that's a sign of the times we've been through, and it's been very, very hard economically in our town and so many business owners. I think what an opportunity we have, and what a shame it would be to waste this chance to be on the forefront of so much economically, socially, because if people aren't buying it in Livingston, they'll go to another town and spend their money there. And the storefronts in our town, unfortunately, will remain empty. So I'm hoping that to match the overwhelming majority of people who voted for this in New Jersey and in our town, that the council will consider, allowing this opportunity to really be fruitful for our economy and our town as a whole. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sarah, thank you for your comments. We appreciate it.
Thank
you. Stephen Gilbert. Stephen, you're up.
Great. Can I get on screen, please, guys?
Sure.
And promote him as a panelist, please.
Yeah. Should be coming in as long as your video's on.
Let me turn my video on. Okay. So this starts my 6 minutes, I guess. You guys were very, very specific with my 6 minutes last night. Very concerned about how I was muted tonight. As a previous commenter said, silence is violence. And what's happening here at Town Hall and the blocking and the lack of transparency isn't right. But we'll move on to the topic of cannabis right now, and the opportunity right now that's presented to this council and this town to take advantage of something, the end of prohibition that hasn't happened for 90 some odd years, and a massive opportunity. And as I've listened to the town council have meetings over the past year, I can hear in your voice that the town could use some money. Last night, Councilman Vieira was looking for money. Says, I don't exactly know what you said, Councilman Vieira, but it was something to the effect was, we can't leave money on the table. You were introducing, you wanted to introduce a grant writer. You're looking for ways to make money, and here's an opportunity where we can bring and attract billion-dollar businesses to town. Billion-dollar businesses. I said to Councilman Anthony earlier in the week, instead of being negative and chasing businesses away, which this council is good at, okay? I'm sure most of the people in the town know about the situation with the restaurant Porto, right? Right, Councilman Fernandez? I think you were on that board, and explained to me how that business was chased out of town and fined $20,000.
I won't get into the business when I chased out of town, but we'll just leave it at that.
Charged $20,000 for a mural on their wall because you said that it didn't have a pizza painted in it, and that's why that would have been okay if they put a piece of food in that beautiful mural, which has now been empty.
Yeah, tonight's not the night to discuss it. We can discuss it anytime.
That could be a great dispensary. It could be some sort of business, but instead it's been empty for a year. So again, I see the opportunity to attract the next unicorn business, perhaps make Livingston the Silicon Valley of cannabis. But instead, we're taking this position and scaring potential businesses away. We have an opportunity to collect revenue from these businesses. Instead, we're talking about scary and no way this, and our attorney is instilling fear in the community for no reason. We need to change our attitude. I think right now the town should instead of making any decision as a town council, should appoint a cannabis committee or a town cannabis commission to now oversee the commercial applications of cannabis here in town. And instead of chasing this business away and this type of business away, it should embrace the 6-tier system and figure out a way to use it so that we're leaders, so that towns across New Jersey look to us to lead and show them a safe and responsible way of bringing cannabis, legal cannabis, to our community. We shouldn't depend upon delivery services as an option. Why? Why do we want to invite out-of-town people onto our properties, opening up the opportunity for them to slip and fall, which is happening with DoorDash and Uber Eats situations where people are getting frivolous and fake slip and fall lawsuits filed against them? Do we want to? Does the town council want to bring that element into our town? Or do we want to provide that same business here to a dispensary or other business operation in Livingston, make the 2%, and how about build the biggest delivery system for New Jersey right here in Livingston and make 2% off of every transaction that goes outside of Livingston? But instead, the town council would like us to go to East Hanover or Roseland or other places that are not Livingston. And we're still presented with an opportunity, with a shortcoming in money. We're doing grants and things that are not going to advance this town. And we've got fields that are closed again today. I think they're planning on being closed again tomorrow. Sidewalks that are in disrepair. Okay, where's the money coming from? Is there a tax increase coming? What's going on? We have an opportunity and an industry to take advantage of, and this council is doing everything they can through lack of promotion, muting participants, to not being transparent, to chasing this opportunity, this once in our lifetime opportunity away. And this is not the posture and not the time, okay, that we should be doing this. Sean, do not bankrupt this town. That's it.
All right, thank you. Barry?
Yep, I'm working.
Okay, thank you. I would just make a quick comments to that. Steve was talking as we've made decisions on this. No one has made any decisions. No one's chasing anyone away. So I'm not sure why he's saying that. No one has silenced him. Obviously, he got the same 6 minutes that everyone's gotten. I'm not sure why he feels that he was silenced tonight. I feel badly that he feels that way. It's not the
He's referring to the Facebook thing.
It's to listen to everybody. Okay, but we have not blocked anyone. We have not silenced anyone. So we're trying to be as transparent and open as possible. That was the whole purpose of a night like tonight. That's what I would say about that.
Mayor, can I just say one thing? Because
Yeah.
in that discussion a few minutes ago by Mr. Gilbert, talked about the fields being closed today. I have videos in case anybody would like to see them of some of the fields that were taken by the DPW and how they were full of mud and they would be unsafe for kids to play on the fields. I think that was a very wise decision to close the fields. But thank you.
Thanks, Ed. Okay. Do we have anyone else? Any comments from Live Comments or anything like that? We have Hua.
We got someone just, raise her hand. Hua.
Hi, this is Hua Li. I go by Lori as well. 47 Crossbrook Road. And so far, the comments I have heard have been focusing on the economic, the sick and the chronic, these patients. For the chronic and medical use, I'm for it. I agree with them. But I'm just looking at the Wikipedia about the side effects of cannabis. By comparing the cannabis and the smoke and the liquor, I feel like cannabis has a much worse impact. If I read a little bit about those, the impact, it includes a general change in perception, difficulties thinking, impaired short-term memory, and if at a high dose, the mental effects include psychosis, delusions, hallucinations. So I'm just wondering whether the liquor and the smoking would have such impact as well. So I'm just wondering, in addition, except for the economic, the revenue, those stuff, do we want to be very aware of this impact to our mental health caused by the cannabis? That's all.
Thank you.
Jing Gao.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jing Gao, 9 Marissa Court. So I'm actually really not very familiar with this cannabis things. But after I listened to all the speakers, I still think is to me, and I also I was watching with a couple of friends. We all think it's actually, it's better to go slow. So we are supporting the initial opt-out plan so that we can do more research and we can learn from others and see what kind of mistake might occur. So it's always, if you want to go to a new field, you always need to do more detailed research and watch and see. So that's will be benefits to our town. And if for those medical use or whatever, because there's some other next town, it's really not too far away. You can still get it, I think. And I've been in this town for many years, more than 20 years. When I first moved into this town, and gave me a good impression, it's very residential, not many stores. But if you want to go to store, you go to Route 10, you can have lots of store shopping around. So that's something I liked about this town. So that's basically what I want to say.
Thank you. Any other hands up?
Now, there is one person who's called in on the phone. If you're on the phone and you want to raise your hand, you hit *9.
I'm informed you
Don't know
of
if
some
they
of the
knew
things
that
that
or-
have been going on.
Anyone
All of
else?
the library
Raise your hand.
employees, with the exception
Going
of the
once,
director, have
twice.
started their furloughs.
Nobody.
Okay, well, listen, thank you very much for everyone who came in and commented. I think it's been an interesting night to listen to what everyone had to say. Do any of the council members have any closing comments they want to make? Okay.
I just wanted to thank everybody for their participation tonight. We appreciate, everybody's views. So thank you very much.
Okay, good. And this is going to be something that we're going to obviously have to address in the future, and we're going to figure out how we're going to do that. I think that's all for tonight. So thanks, everyone, and have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Okay, back to Dover.
All right, thank you.
Continue to work with St. Clair's, and I just want to point out that an additional 20 seniors received their vaccine yesterday. We were called on Friday, and we were able to put together another 20. They received their shots at St. Clair's in Denville. And our overall numbers, though, continue to remain stable, too high. There are too many positive cases reported still on a weekly basis, and we're monitoring it very closely. You obviously may have noticed that a new roof is being placed on Town Hall. It's projected to be completed by next week. We have the building, we're then going to have the building power washed to improve the outside appearance. And the cupola on top of the building does need some repairs and probably needs to be resided. Please don't make me get into an argument as to whether it should be vinyl or hardy board. I think we'll go by what our recommendations are.
Gosh, that was
But it
great.
will look good.
Perfect.
The cupola, okay. Once the outside has been completed, we'll turn our attention to the repairs necessary inside the building. We couldn't do that while the inside ceilings were leaking, what have you, but it's moving forward. The construction starts next week on the bathrooms at the DPW building. The date is needed as no or significant repairs have been done since that building was constructed. We Love Dover will see the cleanup of the town during the month of April. There'll be bags distributed for the residents, and we're continuing to seek volunteers to assist with the pickup of the debris throughout the town. On the 17th, this Saturday, we'll be doing wards 1 and 4, and on the 24th, wards 2 and 3. We're also having the annual shredding on May 1st at the DPW Recycling Center. Speaking of the recycling center, we've changed the hours of the center to 8 to 12 on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and 8 to 2 on Saturday. This is a cost-saving move, and it seems to be more than justified by the actual number of residents that have been using the center during the week. So it used to only be open on Saturdays, but we're going to continue the Tuesdays and Thursdays, at least so the residents become adjusted to having it not open as often. Remember, we do continue to have our curbside pickup as the recycling. We've instituted a regular meeting schedule with the superintendent of Dover school system, which has proven to be very beneficial. DPW did assist the schools getting their baseball field ready for the season. The schools opened their track at East Dover Elementary School. Open to the public. The school has also made their soccer fields available to the youth recreation soccer. We've been working with Bert to have that field incorporated, and it will enable us to have the recreation program expanded, and we're deeply indebted to the school board and the administration for helping make that happen. There have been several meetings, very intense and very long meetings, with the Recreation Committee, which Alderman Quinones is the head of, and Alderwoman Cruz and Alderman Tapia are members. And due to the conditions of the basketball courts at Craig Field, we were forced by our insurance carrier to close the basketball courts for public use. It was not something that the committee wanted, nor I, but we had no choice due to insurance. The committee immediately met, and a solution has been directed to me that includes
Listen, I'm
mowing
gonna
and paving the
stop this
Crescent
one
Field
and go
court
back
and putting a new
and restart
surface
on
it.
YouTube again.
There'll be
'Cause
new
we don't need a
basketball
2-hour
units.
meeting.
The poles with
So
the,
we have
backboards
we have
and the nets,
Livingston
rims
and
will be installed to provide the residents with a
Morristown
grade
on this one.
A basketball
And we're gonna start
courts.
Dover in about
The
1 minute.
courts at the parks
Be right back.
known as